Monica. It is so great to meet you via Zoom this year and excited to talk with you during this one-on-one appointment.
Hi, I am so excited to be here. Thank you for meeting with me today.
Absolutely. Um, I appreciated you sending over your one sheet, and I did have a chance to take a look at that. And, Monica, I think that you did a really good job of putting together what you really want this book to do for the reader and who the reader is. And that's really, really important to identify, in a one sheet, like what's the snapshot of the book and who it's for. And so as I read your proposal, and your title was Cultivate, and it was really looking at how do you have the life that you love with the God who loves you. And so one of the things that as I was looking at it, um, I was like, it's a really important topic of how do you fill up on who God is? And you talked about, I thought you did a good job of talking about how it helps someone be satisfied, motivated, and equipped. And that when you know who God is, the more that you know who he is, the more that you'll fall in love with him. And I was really wanting you to take that a little further and
Yeah.
even just be able to say, hey, what that really looks like is, you know, things that you may not recognize about God. That's when we really learn him. Or maybe there's 9 character traits about God that you've not necessarily recognized. So if you could draw that out a little further, I think that that would be really helpful. And one of the ideas that I took from your, I'm just reading at your one sheet just now, was that, maybe this idea of cultivate um, could really be turned into, because I do see that title, used a lot. And I'm thinking maybe it's something about faith life and things that must be on our plates. Because you talked about coming to the table of God and really like that we get snippets of who he is. We get little morsels or appetizers of him just in our daily lives. But you really wanting them to have fuller picture of God and really partake him. And so I had this idea of like maybe things that need to be on our plates when we come to God. What are those things we want to put on our plates? And what are those things we want to take off of our plates? And so I even had, just this thought about maybe a title idea of what am I missing?
Mhm.
The essentials of faithful partaking, or the essentials of faithfully, um, feasting with God. And really the idea is to like, maybe you had some samples here in your one sheet about, um, you know, happiness versus fruitfulness. And those are good topics. I'm wondering about the idea of maybe saying, I'm going to put on my plate thankfulness and I'm going to take off jealousy. So maybe you do look at it maybe from a topical standpoint. So I don't know if any of that resonates with you, and that might bring up even more questions for you. But that's what I noticed about. I thought it was really good that you did identify who your reader is and the audience. Um, and I'm always like trying to help writers look at how can I say what I'm saying, but say it even with a different twist or a different hook on it that hasn't been done before. And so when I saw the idea of cultivate and this idea of creating a life that you love, I know that there's some titles and some books already around that. So I was thinking, what is it that this age group seems to be after? And it's almost like, hey, I'm a Christian. I want to love God. So what am I missing? Because
Yeah.
that feels like that current angst that we're in, right now. And so maybe it's helping people look at what are those things that I need to put on my plate. Everybody's trying to take stuff off of their plate. They
Yeah.
want to. So those are some ideas. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
I really love that idea. And I actually really love thinking about the visual, like you said, of like trading out jealousy for thankfulness. I'm really loving that thought and thinking about that. I'm gonna write that one down. That's good. That's a good
Good.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think Monica, a good next step for you will really be to help take this into a proposal format. And so, one of the suggestions that I have for writers is it's great to put together, thoughts on paper. And one of the next best steps for you would be to use a book proposal. I suggest the one that Michael Hyatt has on his website, and that'll give you a chance to kind of go through and identify some of the things that I saw here that made me want to read more. For instance, I liked how you talked about how you want to give, you clearly stated this in your summary, that you want to give women an opportunity to pull up to the table and fill up on who God is, and to take a seat and have a full meal where they leave feeling satisfied, motivated, and equipped. So I think you did a good job of identifying what you want the reader to feel. And I think what will come next is how you get them to feel that, like what will your chapters look like? What will those practical takeaways be for each chapter? And so maybe, as you're outlining, you can go through and go, okay, well, this chapter is going to be on thankfulness. And so at the end of the chapter, I want to give them an exercise where they're going to be able to put that into practice. And so I think that would be a really good, next step for you. And so, often I get this question, and I don't know if this is on your mind as well, but I often will get this question of like, is this book marketable? And, is this something that I should proceed with? And I think there's always going to be books that can be similar to other ones. And, there are some books that talk about living the life that we love, that God's given us, that God's created for us. But anytime that you can take an idea and make it unique, and that's where I see potential for this book, because I think you've got some good things to say. And it's just a matter of like now drawing those things out and really coming up with a unique hook for this book.
Yeah.
And I think that idea of like the table and how we're going to fill up on God and just a full course. What does that look like for us as a reader interested in who you are, and what does that do for them even? So yeah, I think continuing on the title would be a good suggestion too, because cultivate is this action, but we don't really know what that's going to do for us. Right. And maybe it's even, instead of the life you love with the God you love, it might even be, finding God in ways you never expected him, or something that kind of intrigues and draws the reader in. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what other questions do you have as we're discussing your proposal?
That's a good question. That covered a lot of really great topics for me, and just ways to continue to clarify and refine. I think as far as, the topics go, that just feels really strong, and I feel excited to go and run with that. So I think at this time, I'm just ready to go and work on that book proposal. And I'm really thankful for that resource. So excited to check that out and get rolling.
Yeah. I think that will be good because, oftentimes when in these meetings that are short, we only get a small opportunity to see what you're working on. You only have a small chance to ask questions, but that really does fill in a lot of the things that, as an agent, that I look for. And the proposal will be able to answer questions like, how will you connect with the audience? Because we haven't even gotten to cover that. Like, what is your connection to this book, and what are you bringing that other books, haven't addressed before? And so that would probably be another question that, that I would ask you and leave you with, is just to really be able to see, like, there are other books that address the same topic, but here's how my book is different. And so you want to make sure that you're conveying that in what you're putting together, because it'll be really important for an editor, for an agent, to be able to say, oh, I can see, how this idea resonates, but then aren't there other books like it? And so that section is going to be really important. But I do think that anything that's meeting a felt need, and that's where we always go to, when we're looking at proposals, we're looking for ideas that resonate with us as a reader, that go, oh yeah, this is going to meet a need in my life, and I can see how it will directly impact me and help me. And so anytime you can bring that out, you're in a good spot to be able to deliver, content that meets a need and that that intrigues us. So I think you've done a really good job, and I'm really proud of you for what you've put together.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This has been just wonderful feedback. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, I'm really glad I met you. Keep writing and keep going. I'm really proud of you. Good job.
Thank you so much. Thank you.